I started babysitting families in my church growing up. Between the ages of 12 to 16, I babysit for over 30 families, and I was highly requested in that community. I knew everyone and I attended that church since I was 4. Everyone knew me, I knew everyone. Very tight-knit. So I babysit for a family we will call the Smiths. I knew the Smith family since I was 10, and they had children that were younger than me. I helped with these kids for children's mass. I knew the family and we were kind of close because I was one of the kids' helpers in a class unit. Plus we all knew each other from the church and school. Now I'm 13ish when this happened. I babysat for this family, the Smiths, and it was going well. They had a pool in their backyard and the dad had told me to pack a bathing suit. He said, "The kids will probably beg you to swim with them if you don't mind, but you don't have to." So I babysat these kids for about 5 hours, 1-5, and 4 hours, and the husband came home to take a work call, and then he would help with the kids, and my parents would take me home. 20 minutes before the dad gets home, the kids want to swim. I agree and we all get ready. I had chosen a normal bathing suit for a 13-year-old, but I had a larger chest than others my age and the mom of these kids. Now the dad comes home and asks if things are all good. I tell him yes, and he tells me he will find us when he's done with his work call. It's about 5 and he comes out and asks to take another call. He asks to take a picture to send to his wife to let her know I'll watch the kids for longer since he had another call. All went well till the wife shows up. Everything goes well, the kids are having a blast. I help dry them off, help them shower, and change as the wife gets ready to take over, and the husband started making dinner. I was in my oversized shirt bringing the kids downstairs when the wife signals to me. She pulls me aside and begins to shame me. She tells me I will not be getting paid from 4-5.45 for dressing like an easy girl in an attempt to stray her husband from me. That my choice of swimsuit was inappropriate and she should have known better not to trust me. That I was an easy girl and that my breasts would get me nowhere in life and I was going to be raped dressing like that. I was flabbergasted because I'm barely 13 at the time and I wasn't wearing a revealing swimsuit. I nod and profusely apologize because I wore this to the pool and never had any problems, and me and my bestie had matching ones. I was sobbing hysterically, took my money and sat on the porch waiting for my mom to pick me up. I hear yelling inside, dad comes out, gives me $50 and goes back to yelling at his wife inside the house. Does she really think her husband would go for a 13-year-old? She has problems if she thinks her husband can be swayed by a teenager. It's projection. She was cheating, so she picked the closest person to him, and that's who he was cheating with. This is the kind of woman who would accuse a 5-year-old of being an easy girl if said 5-year-old was molested. She was jealous a 13-year-old has a bigger chest than her. I'm 27F, and I live in a rather nice neighborhood near the middle. My neighbor, who we'll call EM for entitled mother, has a large dog and a rather destructive son, who we'll call EK for the entitled kid. I have a pretty good financial situation, and I live alone because the house was passed down to me in the will. It's a pretty big yard compared to Karen's yard, which is almost half the size. I have no gate for the yard, leaving it open for any pets animals to come right in. I work from 7 a.m. 5 p.m., so I'm gone for a long while during the day. Karen is the type to do a lot of gardening, so she doesn't like EK in the yard with all the tools. One day, she asked me if I would allow her son to play in my yard while I was at work. It couldn't cause any harm, could it? I accepted, but I did tell her that her son would have to be gone by the time I was back, and all went well until I got my first cat. Keep in mind, EK would always bring the dog over with him to play. I named my new Ginger cat. Well, Ginger. Ginger loved to bask out in the sun with the EK and dog until one day I found that she wasn't outside. In fact, she was inside with a bite mark. I rushed her to the vet immediately, where she was treated and wore some sort of bandage wrapped around her waist for the next week or so. I checked the cameras only to see EK trying to move Ginger out of her general spot so that he could sit there, and she swiped at him, scaring him off. It seemed that EK's dog did not take kindly to this, and the mark was not a bite mark, but a swipe from the dog. I presented this info to Karen, who denied it and said he's just a kid and Ginny is fine. I reminded her that it was Ginger, then told her that neither her son nor dog were allowed on my property again. She threw an absolute tantrum and told me that they should be entitled to the yard while I was away, because after all, you can't just let it go to waste. I then reassured her of my decision, to where she said word for word, "Ma'am, you need to leave. I am so confused. I'm considering my options, and I think small claims court is a bit too much for this. What am I supposed to do? If they, child dog mom come on again, call the police. You have clearly stated they are not welcome and they would thus be trespassing. Document the cat's injury and keep that information. Do not let them back on your property. Especially not an unattended child. Also, you could be liable if the kid hurts himself of your property. Take that idiot to small claims court for the amount of the vet bill. I'd also install a fence so EK and ED, entitled dog, can't get into your yard. Yeah, this is where the phrase strong fences make good neighbors comes from. Get a fence installed. Also, depending on where you live, you could be liable if the kid hurt himself while on tour property, so I wouldn't let people hang out in your yard when no one is home. The kid could trip over a tree root or fall against a nail sticking out of your house and sue you. Update. Yes, I did see all of your comments about liability. I'm currently trying to find out the best kind of fence I can get regarding the neighborhood HOA. As mentioned, I do have cameras and put up a no trespassing sign next to the mailbox. I did have her read and sign a contract stating that she or any other member of her family was to be allowed on my property, and if this happened, I would not be liable. Also, I will be able to sue her for trespassing and recommended that she filled her kid in on this info. As you may expect, she threw a tantrum saying, "You need to get over it. It's just a cat. You don't even need the yard when you leave." Although, I did get her to sign the contract at the end, even got to watch the look on her face get more and more sour. Thanks for your advice, everyone. So my mom is the most entitled, self-absorbed, selfish person I know. She grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth, and her daddy paid for everything, so she has no idea how to adult, especially now at 72 years old. I have strived every day to not be like this woman. Truthfully, my mom didn't do much raising of me until I was about 15 years old. Other family members did prior to that. That being said, I gave birth to my daughter, Megan, in December of 2022. And she is the love of my life and the apple of my eye. My mom loves her for as much as she can genuinely love anyone or anything and seems to think they're going to be best friends. Her behavior, however, has far from reflected that. Every time my kiddo cries in the background while we're on the phone, my mom's first reaction is what's wrong with her each time. I calmly say that she's a baby and babies cry. Then her next response is always, "Well, you never cried." Which I highly doubt. Over the phone, my mom has said things like, "I'm surprised you haven't looked at her and told her to stop. She needs to be quiet. I'm not in the mood to deal with her crying today. You're going to have to call me back, I can't listen to her." Nice, right? I have called her out on these kinds of statements before, saying that it's unacceptable for her to say those things and to speak to my child that way. But she's the queen, so no one tells her what to do. She moved to our area recently, and my daughter started crying while we were driving down the road. Not even full-fledged, lung-emptying screaming, just medium-level crying. After a couple of minutes, my mom leans around the passenger seat and shouts, "Megan, stop." And that's when I lost it. I tore into her and told her she will not scream at my child because she is my child and not her child. And that she was going to sit there and listen to her because that's what I have to do every day. I also told her if she has a problem with the noises my child makes, then she won't be welcome at our home. I yelled at her so severely that she cowered in her seat. Then I said very loudly and sarcastically, "It's okay, Megan, Grammy doesn't know what she's saying because she has no idea what it's like to raise a child." The rest of the car ride was pretty quiet, and it only solidified my decision to never leave my daughter alone with her. Very satisfying. Imagine getting to 72 and thinking if I yell at this almost 4-month-old baby, they will stop crying. I would say, be careful of the aftermath, you never know if she might retaliate because some entitled grandparents don't like to be told no. But great job actually making her cower after what she did to your baby. How is a baby going to understand what she's going to say if she screams at her? Sounds to me like, when other people were raising you, she didn't want to be bothered at all or even acknowledge you. Do you think that she wants to try again with your daughter, even though you've told her now, or do you think she just wants to not deal with anything since your daughter is still a baby? OP. I think she likes the idea of having a grandchild and seems to think she can care for her and babysit her and whatnot, but it's clear that she can't. 30 minutes after that conversation, she acted like nothing ever happened and went right back to calling her my little bitty buddy. Good job. My husband and I were visiting my Bill, and he did the same crap but worse to his kid. He got into his son's face and screamed, "Shut up." Let me tell you, I went up on the side of him and down the other. Then informed his wife, who was at the store at the time. She threatened to leave him if he didn't get counseling.